If you're an executive working at a PE-backed company, wouldn't it be helpful to know what PEs are actually worried about when it comes to AI use in their portfolio companies? Good news, that's what this episode is all about. Hi, I'm Courtney Baker, and this is the AI Know-How podcast from Knownwell, helping you reimagine your business in the AI era. Today, I'm joined by Knownwell Chief Strategy Officer Pete Buer, CEO David DeWolf, and Chief Product Officer Mohan Rao to talk the top 3 concerns PEs have for their portfolio companies. After that, Garber of NewSpring Capital will join us to share his insights. But first, the news. Knownwell Chief Strategy Officer Pete Buer joins us again to break down some of the latest headlines in AI and to share his thoughts on how they may apply to your business. Hey, Pete.
Hey, Courtney.
Pete, I'm going to jump right in because it's, the news with AI is coming quickly. So the first headline this week comes from Vox, and it's this: your AI personal assistant is almost here, assuming you actually want it. Google, Amazon, and Microsoft all unveiled generative AI assistants that will help users do a variety of things, from having near human-like conversations with Alexa to using Microsoft's Copilot across a number of Microsoft products. Pete, in the business context, what should we do with this news?
I think this news is kind of more marginally interesting than it is fundamentally exciting. Set aside our memories of Clippy and past technology companions gone wrong. Having Alexa at your side more continuously, okay, I guess that's fine. I'll still check on the weather with her and order from Amazon. Where I think this gets more interesting, though, is in the business context for executives listening, is when it becomes proactive and purpose-built. So imagine you're a manager in an organization and you're getting prompts on a regular basis to spend more time with Blutarsky because his numbers are down. Get ready for the merit cycle. And by the way, here's your 10 review profiles. Good luck delivering them, right? So for now, I think, interesting news, not overly exciting.
Next up, this one came out a few weeks back, but I wanted to share it because it really illustrates where we think a lot of potential of AI lies. The New York Times recently published an article called "AI Can't Build a High-Rise, but it can speed up the job." It says, Buildots, a startup in Israel that provides project management guidance via wearable cameras that analyze building progress, signed a deal for its first New York project, a mixed-use development in Manhattan. The firm commissioned a study of 64 international building sites, and it found that just 46% of the average work site was being used at any time, evidence of poor organization and scheduling. Pete, what can we learn as executives and CEOs from this?
Well, the building construction industry is enormous, and the magnitude of waste is spectacular. So the image of drones flying around with hard hats checking out construction sites is fun and compelling, if you follow that business. I think it's more importantly a beautiful metaphor for what executives need to do in looking at their own businesses, especially when we're talking knowledge work where everything is information based, right? Across your job sites, think in terms of, for instance, value streams, the process of serving customers from beginning to end. Where is your waste building up? Where are you inefficient? Where are there opportunities to be much more effective? That's absolutely the job of leadership for the next, 2 decades, right? So this is exciting. This is going to a great place and has total application for C-suite executives going forward.
Also love that they inadvertently gave us a plan, which is first you have to evaluate what's being done now. They did a deep dive in evaluating all of these other building sites to figure out what was the average work site being used. And so for us, actually establishing how is work being created today so that then we can actually enable AI and add it into our practice and create something new is a really great formula.
It's the classic consulting scenario, right? What's your current state? What's the future state? What are the critical steps involved to drive from A to B?
Pete, thank you as always for helping us break down the latest news.
My pleasure. I love it.
Executives, if you're wanting the inside scoop on how private equity firms are thinking about AI, you're in the right place. I talked with Knownwell's David DeWolf and Mohan Rao about the top 3 AI concerns private equity firms have for their portfolio companies. Mohan, David, welcome to the show.
Hey, Courtney.
Hey, Courtney. Hey, Mohan. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
Great.
This conversation that we're going to have today, specifically about PE firms and what questions they're asking, is a really interesting one. It's a little bit like a peek behind the curtain. And David, I don't know if you realize this, but you took a recent trip to New York City and you were meeting with some of these folks and you came back and you were like, these are the things that I'm hearing. I grabbed those from you and I'm actually going to throw them back at the two of you.
Mohan, you got to be careful about what you say around here, apparently.
Listen, there's content everywhere. You just never know when it's going to show up on the podcast. So I'm going to pose these back to you two. And I would just love to have a discussion around, for everyone listening, how can they take these and utilize them? Let's give them some inside advantage maybe on how to think about these questions.
Courtney, that's fascinating. I want to inject something here because I think this is really important for executives to understand. One of the reasons I think this is actually interesting, what you've done here, is because institutional investors are one of the best that I know at understanding markets and trends. And one of the things that I have seen in the last, I'm going to say 4 months especially, I think it started in March and April, is institutional investors, both venture capital and private equity, push in hard around AI. And it has reminded me, I had a former board member that when I was running my first company, used to say to me all the time, institutional investors, they're only driven by 2 things, fear and greed. Those are the 2 primal motives of an investor, right? It is, what's going to disrupt our return? How are we going to optimize our return? How do we perform in that type of environment? And I think what you see in the way institutional investors are reacting to AI is just proof positive that this is real. It's here. It's happening now. In fact, I have been told by my private equity friends that they are mandating to all of their portfolio companies that they go out and do an analysis of what does AI mean to their business. And so I just think that's important context for understanding, like, why would you surface institutional investors and PEs? I actually think it's a barometer of how the market and where the market is going.
And I'd imagine the flip side of it is right as well, right? So which is there is a risk of not doing, and that is also motivating many of the PE companies, I'd imagine. Is that right, David?
I think that's fair. Absolutely. They do not want to be left behind, right? More than anything else, private equity, especially in the middle market, it's all about being ahead of those trends and executing. And what do you have in this environment is you have this inflationary environment where interest rates are through the roof. Financial engineering isn't driving return anymore. You have to outperform your competition. How are you going to outperform? Not only by being on top of the trend, but this trend in particular is all about profit. It's all about efficiency, effectiveness, productivity, right? The numbers are very clear. $16 trillion of economic value in the next 7 years that the economists are estimating. 60 to 65% of that, I believe, is the number, is predicted to be just in efficiency, job productivity gains. Like, that's where they want to execute.
So one of those questions that you kept hearing was, how can our companies leverage AI to create efficiency gains and drive productivity? So just exactly what you said, they're actually asking, how do we do that? How do we do that with our companies?
I think every company in the portfolio is going to be at a different starting point, right? So you need a framework, a methodology to get started. And that's the way to do it from a PE company perspective. It's not one size fit all, but meeting the companies where they are in terms of starting their AI journey.
I think that's an interesting point. Mohan, the other one that I would throw out there is just a tool. I think one of the tools that comes out of lean manufacturing is the idea of value stream mapping. This is really understanding the information flows, the processes, the systems, the people that are involved in driving value to a customer, right? And I think if organizations look through the lens of value streams and say, how do we specifically insert AI into these value streams to make them more efficient and effective, we're going to see monumental gains. This technology is just going to allow us to automate and do knowledge tasks faster than we have ever been able to before.
I couldn't agree more with that. Broadly speaking, there are two places where you can apply AI. One is around individual productivity, and I think the use cases of those are coming clearer every day. What's less clear is taking a business process or a value stream view of things and applying AI to that chain. That's where I think the step level productivities using AI are going to come in the future.
Okay, so David, one of the other questions you came back with is who's best equipped to spearhead AI initiatives? Should they look internally, externally? Should they hire? Should they work to develop talent inside? What should that mix look like?
It's an interesting question. And again, I'm not sure there's a one size fits all. There's different types of companies. There's different types of leaders. There's different phases that you probably have a different answer for all of those questions. Here's what I would say is right now, the predominant focus is on CIOs and CTOs, maybe chief digital officers. I actually think that's wrong. There's obviously a data and technology component to this problem. We have to be on top of it, but I think those leaders are actually more on top of it. I actually think it's the functional business leaders where the big impact's going to come from. I think the legal use cases are really interesting. I think HR is a huge area where there's not much movement yet, but it will be transformative. I mean, just think about what does it look like in any organization, frankly, to give out merit increases, and how much time does that consume from all sorts of leaders in the organization? How can we use AI to transform that, right? Just one little example. You have to have your CHRO driving that. You have to have your chief people officer, chief talent officer, whoever it is at the top of your organization, drive that type of change. And if you let technology drive it, it's going to be a tool for its own sake. It's not going to add business value and accomplish what we want to accomplish. So I think it has to be ultimately sponsored by functional business leaders. But I think we have to be prepared as chief executives to equip them with the consultants, with the new hires, with the technologists, with whoever it is that they need to complement their skill set, can really help them to further it and then imagine a new world that exists.
That's really well said. It's a new digital operating system that you're building for the company. The emphasis here is on operating system, so that involves everybody in the company, but it has to be sponsored from the top.
Yeah, I love that. It's really a all hands on deck moment. This isn't just a technology moment. This isn't just let's outsource this completely. We've got to look at this as every different area, a different mix to take this on. Okay, so question number 3. You two ready? You nervous yet? You're good?
Here we go. Bring it on.
Okay. Is there fundamentally a business risk to AI deployment? I think this is big.
Yes. I mean, is there a question? Yes, right, Mohan? There is risk, undoubtedly.
I think there is a lot of risk here, right? You're talking about fundamental transformation in the company, both internally and externally, the way the customers perceive of you and get your products and services. So there is a lot of risk, but there are excellent frameworks to work with and mitigate these risks. And the key here is always starting small and building it up and not throw the kitchen sink in.
Yeah. The other thing, I'm going to go back to my comment about fear and greed, right? If I'm a private equity fund, if I'm a board member, I am a board member, right? So how am I thinking about this in the organizations that I'm part of? Here's the fundamental truth. There is no question that AI is here to stay. It's going to fundamentally transform the way businesses work in the same way that electricity impacted businesses, in the same way that the internet impacted businesses. It's not this niche thing off to the side. It is here to stay, and it will be fundamental. In that world, you can curl away from the risk and be fearful and just wait for others and put your head in the sand, or you can push into it and deal with the risk, leveraging these frameworks that Mohan just pointed out. That's what I want. I want an organization who's going to be driving purposely through it, right? Let's go be intentional. Let's deal with it heads on. Yes, there are responsibility and ethics risks. Yes, there are data privacy security risks. Yes, there are keep going and going and going. Deal with them. Know what they are. Be intentional, do your best. It's a lot better than getting caught off guard and having it happen to you, because there are still risks even in not doing it. So charge forward.
David, I've got a question for you. Companies at the private equity stage are often acquiring other companies, and they're creating the platform company to grow both organically and inorganically. How can AI positively affect the acquisition strategy of a company?
Wow, so many different areas. You're right. It is a fundamental part of the thesis that private equity funds tend to have, is both organic and inorganic growth, right? So with that as a backdrop, I'm going to ignore the business as usual M&A, but push into how do we truly take that next step into this new world? And I would say, as long as you have the foundations in place, as long as the risk is there, the risk mitigation is there by having just some of these basic building blocks we've been talking about already in place, and as long as you've charted your course of how will our strategy evolve with AI and how are we going to transform this business, then I think especially instances where 1 + 1 doesn't just equal 3, but 5 or 7, you have to have your eyes open for that. And I'm going to give you a real example. A business that is looking at acquiring a data business or a data source that may be used to train models that can give it a fundamentally stronger value proposition and competitive moat, right? I think is so much more valuable in this AI world than it has been before, and can help you push into that next phase, that new, you call it the operating system, right? The digital operating system of a business can help you get there faster. And I think businesses that are advanced in this area should be looking at moves like that.
That's fantastic.
I hope everybody listening has enjoyed getting a sneak peek into what PE firms are thinking about when it comes to their portfolio companies, regardless of what type of company you are. Hopefully there were some really good takeaways that you can go away with today. You're an executive in the pursuit of excellence, and you know leveraging AI is pivotal in your company's future. We've created an exclusive AI readiness assessment that's available right now at knownwell.com. Now, you may be asking yourself, why take this assessment? 2 reasons. The first is strategic insight. You're going to be able to discover the pivotal steps to catapult AI-driven growth in your business. The second is some customized analysis to help you uncover specific areas that need enhancement for optimal AI implementation. The assessment is quick and insightful. In just 10 minutes, you're going to be able to redefine your business trajectory when it comes to AI. You can access it now at knownwell.com. To help us round out this conversation, Pete Buer sat down with Lee Garber. Lee is a partner at NewSpring Capital, a leading provider of private equity capital, managing around $2.5 billion. We really wanted to hear his perspective on what he's seeing across the different industries they invest in.
Lee, welcome. So happy to have you here.
Thanks, Pete. Glad to be here.
How do you get your companies to stay smart about the threat of disruption?
Look, it's a great question. These ideas get shared. How are you attacking this challenge? There's a lot of collaboration amongst the industries that our companies operate in. We stay very close to the market, both with conversations with entrepreneurs, conversations with advisors, conversations with, thought leaders. And that's part of our job and responsibility to our, not only investors, but our our portfolio companies, right? We need to add some value for them. And that's part of it. And there are, I would call it, few truly esteemed places that we've found. And I think that's part of the challenge in AI, to be that sort of thought leader for where we are, right? And I think there is a distinction in sort of the ability to harness AI depending on the size and maturity of a business, right? It's one thing for Google to do all that research and Microsoft and stuff. You talk about sort of that Copilot product that's out there for Microsoft and who they're rolling it out to. The only people that can touch that right now are, call it, the top 10 Microsoft clients. And look, this is a little dated, my knowledge on this, but it's not down at our end of the market, right? We have 80 seats on Microsoft through maybe, who knows, Ingram Micro or something like that. We're not leveraging and harnessing Copilot yet, right? So contemporary businesses of that size, of that stage, are not leveraging that type of sophistication yet. And so, yeah, there's people that can tell you about how great that is, but how do you truly make that actionable, right? And you have to kind of break it down into bite-sized pieces, like I was talking about earlier. Understand it, demonstrate how you can break up workflow, value stream optimization in many ways, right? And then start to bite off pieces that make sense for you as your business can really handle it.
So how about readiness? We're talking about a pretty robust set of activities here for leadership teams to be on top of. Are they ready?
No, no, not even close.
No?
Not even close. I mean, we're on the field, right? We're on the field, but by no means are we advancing to take a sports analogy down to the 1 yard line here. I think we're maybe on R20, if you will. We're out there, we're assessing the landscape, we're starting to identify areas that we can prioritize to leverage AI. I think it's coming fast and furious. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, we're not sitting on our hands and just saying, let it come to us. But, you think about these processes, and a lot of these companies are mature businesses that have been around a while. Now, they're not large, but they're, subscale. They're potentially pre-institutionalized. The hygiene in their various specific functional areas may not be that great. But think about how you can leverage AI in the hiring process, right? Some of our businesses, when we get involved, don't have applicant tracking systems, right, to even apply AI to profiles on, right? How do we assess who our most successful employees are? What do their profiles look like? How can we replicate that? What makes a great manager in this functional area, right? All of that needs to be better captured. And we work with our businesses to take them along that journey, right? But you infuse AI, you identify products that can help accelerate those areas. And look, providers are helping with that now, right? You talk about the various HRIS systems, the various financial reporting systems. They all want to apply AI, right? But it's a joint effort.
Let's say you're a CEO listening to this podcast and you're starting to sweat a little bit because you're feeling behind.
Yeah.
What would your advice be next
Call me.
several months? Yeah, right?
No. Look, I mean, if you're not paying attention to it, if you're scoffing it off and saying, I'll get to it later, I'd kindly counsel you, I gently counsel you to really start looking at people who can help educate you, right? I think starting in sort of the forest and just wandering is hard, right? You can't just Google, how does AI help my company, right? Every business is a little different. So look for your competimates, look to your competimates, fellow CEOs, your board, right? Who are your closest advisors? And start to ask them how they're dealing with this. I think that's the step that you need to take first. But I would say start to systematize a process around continual assessment. And I know You guys didn't bring me on for this, but the maturity models that exist are really important to understand how close you are to being able to start to leverage elements of AI. And you don't go from 0 to generative AI. You go from 0 to maybe a little bit of machine learning, right? A little bit of maybe natural language processing, depending on where you are and what you want to apply it to robotic process automation, to elements that move you along the continuum, as I consider it, right? That ultimately you need to be able to jump at the first truly integrated componentry of AI that hits your industry.
Lee, I'm so grateful for your time and for your insight today.
Thanks for inviting me. This was a lot of fun, Pete.
That's it for today's episode of AI Known How, brought to you by Knownwell. If you're looking for help in reimagining your organization in the AI era, then make sure to visit knownwell.com. And don't forget about our brand new assessment that you can find there as well. Of course, do all the things you do with podcasts. Share it, rate it, subscribe to it, and let us know what you want to hear about. We want to hear from you. As always, we love to run this topic by ChatGPT. So, ChatGPT, what say ye?
I don't have personal opinions or feelings, but based on the information provided, PE firms value data security, tangible AI ROI, and skilled AI talent. These priorities underscore the need for trust, profitability, and expertise in AI investments.
Okay, thank you, ChatGPT. Very insightful. We'll see you next week with more AI news, discussion, and interviews.